does come to later team fights in the game. Same ban's going to come out of AL. They don't want to give those pocket picks to Shun. And Lucian, Nami, Zeri, Yumi available once again. And I believe AL, they're just going to take the later half of that. I don't know, BLG maybe going for the Lucian this time around. Elk does have a really nasty win rate on it. I believe it's 77 compared to his other champions, which is still 0. And I believe with him picking up that loss on the Zeri, his Zeri is still 0% win rate across 2 games. So I'm pretty surprised that BLG opts into this once again, because statistically, the Zeri is the one that comes out on top when it does come to the late game out of the 2 duo champions. So maybe Elk just isn't dropping the ego. He's just like, we can do it again, but maybe this time with better execution.
I mean, they're going to need it. They are going to go with this Yumi as well. I was thinking maybe they go with the Lulu to give you that kind of like extra engage and support. You're not putting yourself as in harm's way as much as in that regard. But we're almost certainly going to see the Lulu or the Nami being locked in here by AL alongside that Lucian. And honestly, getting the Vi priority and getting it to kind of, into a Yumi or into a Zeri is pretty incredibly powerful for AL, because you're not only are you dealing with the Lucian Nami again in that bot side, but the Vi has a point and click CC. Her ultimate literally brings her straight on top of you. So that's going to be very, very difficult to navigate, because you have much more of an increased kind of setup of a hard engaged C champion, kill champion now on the side of AL.
Yeah, a lot of synergy coming out of AL the second time. Like you said, the Zeri was happily given over because the Vi did get locked in first for the side of AL, but they're going to respond with Wukong. Shun does look very comfortable when it does come to this champion, so a bit more aggressive, so we won't see the Maokai getting absolutely bodied in the early game where he's getting triple buffed. So hopefully we just see more 2v2s. So I want to look for a strong mid lane champion for the side of BLG, because you already have the scaling coming out of Zeri Yumi this time around. But like we've been seeing the Rise 2 games in a row, I don't think both teams have been utilizing Rise as to his potential, because with the Realm Warp available, I think he can make a lot of side lane plays, and or even just cheat tempo and just make a play on the other side of map and TP into mid lane and just force something else. Just be more creative with it. So I wouldn't like to see both sides picking Rise, even though it is a very ridiculously strong champion. I believe that top lanes are just going to keep getting banned out, because Bin has been playing pretty well.
I mean, he was until that last team fight, I got to admit. In that last game, I do tend to agree. But the Ahri ban comes out here against Pinzi. Was one of his most played in the LDL before he came up to the roster here on AL in the LPL. But not going to be getting his hands on that one here. And it's curious as well. We've seen the Renekton banned away pretty much almost exclusively on the second rotation here by BLG. ZDZ, in my opinion, isn't someone I would regard as a exceptional Renekton player, but we have seen, especially over the last few weeks, just how good this champion can be, how incredibly powerful it is when just left to its own devices, and it's why the LPL has historically always prioritized this champion in the top lane.
Yeah, I mean, Renekton does get taken off, like you said, and it does open up the champion pool for Bin, because I guess he's just scared of the amount of aggression that does come out of Vi and Renekton when it does come to the top lane 2v2. Rise does get hovered for the side of Yago. We're not sure which one he's going to decide on just quite yet. Second time in a row, Yago is going to be functioning on this Rise. I believe he's just going to get responded with the Jace. We've been seeing a lot of Jace just being an automatically counter champion into the Rise. However, if we throw it back to the early game of Game 2, Yago's Rise was getting that priority and getting those awesome trades onto Pinzi, where Pinzi was the one losing in the 1v1 sense. But yeah, I mean, Sion open once again. We saw the major problem of Game 2, where Zeri and the Rise just weren't able to shred down this Sion in the team fights. And I need to remind everyone that this guy has at least a 93% win rate now, because he just picked up another one last game.
Yeah, the Sion has been so good in the LPL so far this split, and I like the idea of going towards the Akali as well, give you that kind of backline threat, the dive potential to be able to go in with the Vi really does synergize well, and it gives you a very nice front-to-back team fight here for AL, so they locked that one in. Ping Z just going to pick himself up that, no problem whatsoever. Now BLG, they could go with the Gwen. You got the Wukong in the jungle. It would leave you very reliant now on this dive combination. So you're going to go with the Wukong and the Gwen. They need to get onto Betty, make sure he is not just free-firing these fights. If they don't do that, there's going to be a lot of big issues for BLG.
I mean, Betty was able to give a lot of opportunities for the side of BLG to really get their scaling champions online from Game 2, so I'm not too worried about that. But the entirety team comp of BLG, we are lacking some frontline. Of course, you have the Gwen as the counter into Sang, where he is going to struggle a little bit when it comes to the side lane pressure, and the Wukong is going to go half half tank, half damage, or else you won't be able to really challenge the Vi in the jungle without that Thunder available. So I'm really worried when it does get to those 5v5 scenarios, because once one person gets caught out by the Silent, we've seen that repeatedly in Game 2. One person gets caught out with the Silent, everyone's pretty much dead because you don't have the engage or frontline needed in these 5v5 team fights.
Yeah, and look, you're getting Bin onto a carry. That's always good to see. Bin has been exceptional. Of course, we can think about his MSI performance with RNG. The Gwen was definitely, you know, they either banned it or they picked it. That's how RNG played that game or that series. So really excited to see what he could do with this one here. And honestly, AL, you are feeling good. Keep that momentum going. This could be your first win. And against someone in the mid-table, that could be devastating for BLG. You do not want to be dropping series pretty much ever, obviously, but especially not against people who are 0-6. And no disrespect to AL, that's just the facts of the matter. So AL looking to try and get themselves to one win on the board. They would really need to have this one going for themselves. Otherwise, they're going to be starting to look at summer. And for BLG, they need to make sure they keep in pace with the rest of the squads. They're losing games, they're losing series, they're dropping further down the playoffs plots, and they do not need to have that happen anymore. So we're going to jump onto the Rift for Game 3. Winner takes it all. The crowd's going a bit crazy right now, but yeah, this is, again, more and more pressure being put onto BLG, and it does feel like when you are someone like AL, when you are lower down on the standings as such, the expectations are so low that it doesn't really matter, you know, what you do. You win or you lose. If you win, oh my god, incredible. You lose, no one was really expecting you to do anything else. So I feel like you can play a bit more freely. Yeah,
exactly. And morale is a very real thing coming into this third game. It does go back to being a best of one, where this game really depends on if AL can pick up their first win of this split. And like you said, with AL, of course, being winless so far, the expectations are a lot less. So they're just going to go all out. We already see it from the team comp. The Vi, Akali, Lucian, so many tools of engage and aggression in this early to mid game, where AL is just going to just free ball it.
They're going to try free ball us at least, as we come in now and see both junglers starting on the top side, mirrored from each other, and making sure they get themselves a nice little start. Actually, a little bit of a leash as well coming out for the Gwen. I think it's just fine. The Sion's not really going to have any much kill pressure really onto the Gwen earlier on, so able to give over a little bit of help to the jungler of BLG. Sean had a very good game 1 with the Maokai, not as great of a game 2 with the Sejuani. Was very active in the early stages, getting those few kind of kills off, but definitely felt like he was overzealous, over pushing himself really, as he looked to try and make something happen in that mid to late game, and it really did cost his team. So want to see him be a little bit more tempered towards those fights now, not just going in blind and causing issue for himself.
Yeah, I mean, the main focus once again is going to be this bottom lane. I believe the Nami is going to hit 2, but yeah, Bin on that Gnar from the previous game, I think he was playing relatively well until that last team fight, but of course miscommunication was very obvious for the side of BLG, and I'm afraid if you're up against a low tier team and you can't even communicate these team fights properly, you might be dropping your first, you might be giving AL their first win if you don't really sort that problem out for this last game. Xun on an aggressive jungler this time around, also his comfort, so I would love to see some brawling when it comes to the 2v2.
Well, they are going to push in towards this bottom side. Xiaohao just running away completely, saying, look, I'm done. I'm not even going to try and deal with you right now. This is why you picked the Wukong. Now, though, Xiaohao, they don't really know exactly where he is. They kind of have an idea that he's around this bot side because of the red buff resetting, but they don't know exactly. So right now, they're just waiting to see if they can show off where the Vi is. No buff has been taken, and with that kind of lack of information, you can see that Sean a little bit wary about where he wants to go, how he wants to try and approach this red buff. He will go back for it, and it looks like he should be able to secure it.
Yeah, Xun definitely being a little pest in the enemy jungle once again. That's because you have so much priority from your solo laners. With the Ryze already rotating and hovering, it's just going to be a free red buff for Xun. Unless AL decide to sack their wave and just really help out Xiaohao. Xun does back off, really smart decision. Don't want to be risking too many chances just in case the level 1 explodes. He's coming back for more though, I'm scared.
Yeah, Xiaohao walking away completely from this red buff. You can see now with the priority in bot lane, BLG get to kind of go for this. And I will say, like, despite all this pressuring and stuff, it is a little bit of a weird situation where Xun, yes, will get the buff finally. There it is. I was just holding my breath for half a second there, but he has wasted a huge amount of time now towards this bot side, and it just really feels like, you know, you're trying to force something like that. It hasn't really put this fight too far behind.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you just get one red buff, but Vi without a red buff does mean she isn't going to be as strong when it does come to the 1v1 duels in the early game, so the Vi's tempo is going to get set back a lot. But with the amount of just lane priorities that we've been seeing from BLG, the Zeri Yuumi once again pushing in the Lucian Nami, even at level 3. But we see Xiaohao hovering towards his bottom side, where Elk is playing way too aggressive for his own good sense.
Using that rise priority, just making sure he keeps that Akali underneath the tower. I will say the Akali doesn't really feel like a champion until she gets her ultimate, then she just becomes 17 champions in one. But Xiaohao finds himself down the bottom side. They've used an Ignite and a barrier here. A couple of offensive summoners now used. Elk trying to see if he can maybe keep himself alive. They are going to push this one forward. They're going to hope to try and catch out Elk now in a second. Here we go. They're going to go for it. Oh, it was so close to being perfect. One more auto will do it. The binding light is just that. You're now in a bubble of trouble on Cats Hate Bats. And that is going to be 2 kills now to AL on the bot side.
Really good start for the side of AL, exactly what you're looking for when you are playing the Vi and Lucian for this game 3. BLG, the bot lane definitely being a bit too greedy and pushed up when your Wukong was getting the Raptors on the other side of the map, so a bit of an overstep from Elk. I think he could have just left at this point, but he was just constantly pressuring, trying to get the wave in, and of course, all summoners being spent and Vi just coming in for the cleanup and just getting this Lucian ahead with that early kill. And of course, by focusing down the Zeri first, the Yuumi won't have too much mobility to run away, and the 2 kills go over to the side of AL for this early game.
Xiaohao almost lands the flash Q as well. That's how crazy of a predict that was. He was just slightly off, and speaking of off, On does get killed off right at the end there as well. And that's 2 kills now. Important as well. They go over to the Vi and the Lucian. Really nice early start here. And you can see it already manifesting into Crit Cloak and the High Noon Quiver. So you're getting yourself a nice setup here for that bot side to build towards that. Again, we said a million times, Imperial Mandate and the Gale Force. But Betty looked exceptional on the Lucian in game number 2. So I am very, very worried now if I'm on the side of BLG. This is now becoming a bit of an issue now on the bot side, as we can see. Sion used his ultimate just to get himself back up to the top side, so he kept himself a TP advantage. But Betty is dead. I don't really know what happened there. Betty just decided to get caught, and now he loses a massive wave.
The wave was building into you. I don't know where Betty uses E, but he just dies for free. And now with Yago TPing down with that Realm Warp, I'm afraid AL just missed out on 3 waves of minions. And Xiaohao can't even pick this up, and Zeri just gets 2 plates for free as well.
Very, very strange there. Not only do you get 2 plates, but all that advantage you just garnered yourself on that bot side is gone. Nothing else to be getting from it. And again, this is it's such a strange situation for AL. It does feel like they gain something from it, and then they just turn off their their head for 2 seconds. They kind of don't really think about what the next play is or how it's going to be affecting them. They just kind of go, oh cool, we did it, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, hang on, we've just lost 20 CS in bot side. We just gave over a kill, loads of plate money. The Zeri's back online.
Yeah, we would need to see what happened in this bottom lane, because we saw the wave pushing towards the side of AL, so it wasn't too bad. You just have to wait for your wave to build in. I know he was getting a bit stressed out from the threat of a dive, and he wanted to clear the wave ASAP. Where did he use his E? I mean, he just didn't use the E at all and kind of just died to the Zeri autos.
What?
And he just died, Oshin.
I don't... Look, I feel like this is like the ultimate version of a caster curse, because like we just gave Betty high praises on the Lucian, how he was able to kind of, move around those team fights, get himself in such a good position. That one was just bizarre, to say the least. And yeah, very, very consistent. Again, no hard CC on BLG to really get that, but look, we'll move forward, we'll move on with our lives and see what they're able to kind of go for. BLG now with the level 6s hit onto their jungler and their solo lanes. They are looking towards this Rift Herald. They're trying to get that early advantage going, get some more gold into their back pockets. And oh, Betty, buddy, you need a hug?
Yeah.
Like, you all right? Like, what happened?
AL just being able to pick up so much early gold, but once they ever do receive the early kills onto the Lucian, he just lets go of that lead and let BLG back into the game. It was looking so good for the first 5 minutes, but unfortunately sometimes you're just overextended and you die for free. The Herald does go towards the side of BLG, and I'm afraid that with this available and the scaling comp, they're just going to pick up a lot of plates and generate so much gold.
Yeah, and they've got priority over the mid lane now. I don't know if it's going to equal any kind of contest around this dragon, so it looks like AL will be picking up the first dragon of the game. Nice solo Drake to pick up, as the mountain does give you plenty of resistances, and maybe that will help Betty in the long term of this game. But now at level 6 is being hit across the board, we are going to start to see more playmaking. You've got the Wukong Cyclone, you have got the cease and desist from Xiaohao as well, so lots to be able to kind of come in here for both junglers to really start making plays around the map.
Yeah, especially when you know that Elk doesn't have that flash available. Xiaohao, with his Vial available, just go bot lane and force something, because this Lucian Nami already looking pretty good. Although, you know, dying sometimes, but I think when it comes to the aggressive side of that 2v2 sense, I think Betty is able to execute that.
CDZ is falling behind, but it's trading nicely here into Bin, so not doing too badly in that regard. Sion, of course, going to be building the full tank. Bin going to be going for that full AP. We all know and love this particular matchup. But Bin going to use that needlework just to try and get a reset off now. Doesn't have the TP. Knows actually that both TPs are on a little bit of a weird timer. We're actually not going to see either top laner kind of sync up for the moment, at least. But still good advantages here for the side of BLG. Bin not going to be allowed that little sneaky recall. And I like this from ZDZ, just kind of keeping Bin honest, saying, look, I'm not going to allow you just to get a free reset, get yourselves back onto the map as quick as you like. You are going to have to try and be a bit more creative than that.
Yeah, I do really enjoy this Gwen pick from Bin as well, right? Because last game we saw that the obvious problem was the Sion and that he just wasn't dying in these teamfights. So now with the Gwen available and her true damage on her abilities, maybe he's just going to get shredded in these teamfights where they're going to be missing a front line when it comes to a 5v5. But like I said, Ryze and Zeri in the pockets of BLG again. Once they hit their item spikes, they are on a ticking time bomb for AL, because you don't have a champion like the Jace this time around where you're able to pick up so many items and just poke in the back. You have to go in.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You have to try and get onto this backside. You have to try and make a fight happen on your terms. And now we spend a hell of a long time looking at top lane wave management there. So if you're looking for some kind of help or whatever on how to wave manage on the top side, there you go. You can watch that last 45 seconds of LPL gameplay, I guess. But again, just kind of waiting for the next real objective to spawn. 3 minutes until the next dragon. 3 minutes until the next herald. But now you get moving back towards the spot side. Shun is there. They do see him on a ward, I believe. So they should know the Wukong is here. Xiaohao has not been spotted just yet, but knowing that the Ryze is no longer here, they should know that there's something up.
Betty does have the Gale Force available though, so if it does come to a 3v3 in this bottom lane, I think AL will come out on top, especially with the amount of damage that they have currently. But we need to remember that Yagal always has that Realm of available. If Pinzi plays it perfectly, he E's Yagal and TPs with the Ryze, but that would be amazing to see in the LPL.
I love seeing that as well. It's going up towards the top side. It's just forever flipping in the world, but it's just such a funny little moment to see. Is silly little interactions, you know, kind of silly goose energy coming out from Akali players. But Shun not going to gain anything on that bot side. Just drop the Rift Herald into mid. Should be able to secure 2 plates at minimum now, as he's got Bin roaming up towards this side here. ZDZ recognizing, hey, my guy didn't come back to lane immediately, so I'm assuming that he's somewhere around here. And absolutely correct, but we can have a look at the gold there. And again, similar to game number 1, similar to game number 2, it's Elk, Yagao, and Bin getting early advantages, getting themselves ahead of the plays. But it's not always about that. We are going to kind of, you know, see about how the execution of the fights do come out. That's the big thing I find when it comes to between these two teams, especially in this series.
Yeah, very slow start for this game 3 considering how game 1 and game 2 went. So pretty good for the side of BLG, especially when you want to play a bit more safe. But like you've been saying, the dragon is spawning in 1 minute, and all the turret plates have gone towards the side of BLG, so they will be getting the mythics a lot earlier compared to AL when it comes to this 5v5 team fight.
Absolutely, and you can even see it there kind of manifesting. You got the Divine Sunderer, the Rift Maker, you've got the Rod of Ages already stacked up to 3, should have it to 4 in a few minutes as well. So, well, actually, you know, less than a minute. That's how it works. But again, it's just more and more pressure building. As I had to mute and sneeze.
Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. It's starting to become allergy season. Myself and Laura are struggling big time. It's not even March. It's we're only even just the beginning of spring, and already nature wants to kill me. But nothing else too untoward now. At first, item's being pretty much picked up across the board. We're waiting for Elk to kind of get his on. Looks for You would imagine his Shirelia's Revelry very soon as well. And it could all end up coming to a head now at this next Dragon or Rift Herald fight. It feels like we're boiling up to a point now where both teams are going to be in a really good situation to make something happen, but also could end up losing a hell of a lot as well.
Most definitely. We need to notice that the Lucian does have the Mythic available when it comes to a 2v2 in this bottom lane. Ultimate's being burnt, and nothing gets traded in.
Ultimates and summoners, so not going to die just yet, but that does mean that you're not without those now for this next fight. The tidal wave would have been lovely to kind of maybe contest this one here. Xiaohao is around in the area, and priority belongs to BLG for the moment. Elf can just W over the wall. Betty,
so
very,
low.
very, very low there. Really underestimating the damage he could take right there, and honestly didn't really do any damage back.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Mythic available on the side of Betty, but they were just getting outspaced from Elk on the Zeri and Yuumi, where they played it pretty perfectly. The Dragon does go towards the side of BLG, however, so it's not too bad of a trade.
Not too bad of a trade, but Dragon now confirmed for BLG. The Rift Herald is spawned as well with the priority they have. You would imagine they would look to try and confirm that for themselves as well. Slowly but surely, we're seeing a 2,000 gold kind of eke forward here for BLG. Similar, not too dissimilar, I should say, to game number 1. They finally have the Imperial Mandate as well as... I was just about to say, I don't think Shun actually killed off that thing, and now he has to go back for it, which means he cannot get himself into the pit, but AL not to be outdone off of the rotation, get themselves up towards his top side, and with the Imperial Mandate finished up with the Akali and the Vi here, you would imagine that there's a bit of a push here. Bin is going to get priority on this tower, has TP, and it is unleashed. This could be an opening moment here for BLG to really crack open this game, get themselves ahead of AL.
Yeah, either you respond to this Gwen in this bottom lane, or you just have to force a fight here. But the Akali does go back and realize that it is quite currently open bot, so this Akali needs to go stop this Gwen before she becomes a problem. But this is the first one we've seen.
There's the tidal wave to try and disengage. That was just Shun baiting them out, saying if I get my ultimate off, I get so much more, and that's literally what he got. He got a flash from Sword Art and the tidal wave, making it so difficult to deal with Bin on the bot side.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I want to see more aggression coming out of these junglers. I mean, the Cyanol comes out, and the cat's dead.
Oh my God, that's what happens when you get off of the shoulder of your AD carry. And now, without a Yuumi, the Zeri is an awful lot more vulnerable. No heal, no extra kind of bonus HP to come in from this. And ZDZ just really nicely setting himself up and his team for a nice little kill. They will get a TP now out of Bin. That should be able to kind of confirm the defense of this tower. But you're losing summoners, and this is the kind of thing we always talk about. We say it a lot when we talk about these games, is tempo. These are tempo plays for AL. They're forcing BLG to react rather than to be proactive themselves.
Yeah, ZDZ comes in and just says, screw it, I'm gonna ult and we're gonna get a pick onto the Yuumi. I think on this Yuumi has been a bit iffy because we see him constantly getting picked off when it comes to the early game sense, which is exactly what you don't want to be doing. Just be attached to Elk. He hasn't been dying, so just stay with him, buddy. But you don't want to be giving these chances over to AL because this time around their team comp is looking way more aggressive with the amount of go buttons that they have, the Cyanol, the Bio, of course Akali gonna follow up as well with the Lucian Gale Force available as well. So you don't want to be overstepping, especially when it comes to this mid lane.
Not overstepping just yet. Plenty of vision here for a BLG in the AL red side jungle because of that tower take and the priority they were able to garner. Xiaohao is slowly falling behind though in terms of the camps being taken. Yagao on that top side with TP available is going to be answered by ZDZ. As we just kind of come back into it. And this is the thing as well. You look across the board, it's CS advantages exclusively for BLG. That's where their gold lead lies. It's just been good macro rotations, getting themselves onto the map, making sure that they are in a position to pick up more resources on the side of AL. But AL have been just getting those kills, have been making a nuisance of themselves around the map. And this is where the game starts to get a little bit funky because it hasn't been a load of early towers. It hasn't been a load of map opened up. There's only been the one tower in the game so far that's been taken down. That was on the bot side. So the map is still very narrow in terms of where you can make plays. So it's probably going to be around these objectives a minute until the next dragon spawns. Neither team on an early soul, so both teams happy to just kind of duke it out.
Yeah, Oshin, don't let the skill board confuse you because BLG is still on a 3k gold lead, even though being down 2 kills, just like you said, with the amount of CS that they've been able to farm up so far in the game. But they are looking for a fight here.
They are looking for a fight. The Cyclone gets used. Betty gets himself out. Summoner flash used by Xiao Hao, but outside of that, nothing lost for the side of AL. Cleanse and flash available for Betty. Look on the other side, you've a full kit of summoners for the Yuumi and the Zeri, so Elk and On have no real excuse to be getting caught out. Second item finished up there by Bin as he comes back out onto the map. Has his knife there in the back pocket. You do have a rapid fire cannon here, so you're on a good, decent 2-item spike here for Betty. As Bin tries to make his presence known, they really want this tower. Will give them great priority over this dragon, and they secure it. So you've got the mid-tier 1. Bin makes himself known to the top side of the map, and now Sean trying to move forward. Doesn't have the Cyclone yet, probably won't have it for this fight, as we can see just more posturing in this mid lane.
But look at the vision that AL has on this bottom side of the jungle. BLG really needs to just walk in and really plant down their wards onto this Baron, because you can't face check into a Scion, and Vi that still has the ultimate available.
They're looking for Bin, who's got the cat on his back. We saw this in game number 2, wasn't able to make it all work for him. Sean is sitting on a pink ward, so he knows he's fairly safe in terms of the vision control. Here we go. ZDZ gets the knock up there to stop the Zeri from moving forward. Shun gets in, but about half HP. This is the power of the Gale Force and the Imperial Mandate. Betty going to be able to get a nice little bit of fruit as well. Honey fruit nicely positioned on the bot side of the map, so he's nice and secure. Has a full plate of health and mana. This is getting very, very close here as we get the dragon now kind of slowly getting down. Shun can go in, get a flash off. They're going to look for it. There's the needlework. Bin getting a bit impatient again. We saw this in game number 2. Good trade back here for AL, but they're going to go fully commit on top of this. They know there's no W, and Bin will go down, but you've lost your Vi. This now has to be a full fight as you get Pinzi jumping straight onto that backside. Shun trying to see if he can take out Betty, and he will. Elk didn't die, and Elk was able to do the damage on the backside of it all. It ends up being a full ace in favor of BLG, and they'll take themselves a dragon as well.
BLG played that so patiently. We saw that the Vi and the Kali were just going in and spending all their abilities onto Bin, where of course Bin does die as a result of that, but that means Elk is just able to kill everyone with the Zeri ultimate. He was just kind of nay-naying on them. Sorry that I had to describe it like that, but I don't know how else to really say this team fight, because look at the Vi ultimate. It just gets dropped onto Bin where his shadow does become unavailable, and all the focus goes onto this top lane where Yuumi also does fall down because of the initial CC that San was able to provide. A 2-man knockout from ZDZ, but it just wasn't enough because Elk just wasn't dying in these team fights. He had the barrier available, and Pinsy just doing everything, flashes the Akali R2, and just really good mechanics coming out of Elk for this third game, which we saw him do in game 2, but there were just some throws.
That was just so close there to being great for AL. AL aren't done yet. AL are saying, you know what, we're going to go again. We are at a power spike right now. We've lost all those summoners now for Elk, so he's not going to have that same level of survivability in this next fight. We are going to see the Baron not get taken very, very quickly, but you can see already this is a bait. They want someone to walk into the river. They want Elk to walk into the river. Pinsy does get caught out, though. That ward will be spotted on top of him, so they know he's up towards that top side. The TP comes in. They get the TP now out of the Gwen. They back themselves away. AL very nicely done, but they got to be careful. They've got a monkey and a cat running at them. There's a tidal wave. Shun is so big, looking for those skirmishes. ZDZ is still very healthy, though. Has the shielding and the rest of his team to follow up. This fight is not quite done there. Sword Art loses about half his HP from 1 W, and now we're going to see them look for this one as Yagao jumps in, immediately goes golden. Pinsy trying to go toe-to-toe with Bin. It's all over the place right now, Kitty. The Scion has died, and Shun is moving on the Xiao House. Shun uses the decoy beautifully to make sure he takes absolutely no damage. Betty trying to make sure he can do as much as he possibly can. Elk goes forward knowing he has the Immortal Shield Bow and the cat, but now BLG can look for themselves a Baron.
I mean, AL was threatening Baron, but their initial reaction was to turn, and ZDZ, I think, could have just played with the vision they had and just land a massive Q, but they were just getting played in the hands of BLG, where they were just consistently getting space, and of course the Baron goes towards the side of BLG, and I cannot stress enough that Yagal is currently level 15 to Pinsy's level 13. This Rise is getting ridiculously strong, especially with Zeri getting an ace in the team fight earlier.
And it does feel like BLG are starting to ramp up the pace right now. AL a little bit panicked, a little bit all over the place right now, trying to make something happen where there's just nothing to gain. So have a look at the replay here. They get the TP, and like you said, they kind of
just split off. He had the flash available, so he doesn't go over, and he decided to walk all the way around, dropping even more health. And AL having reinforcements coming in, but of course Yago does a really nice roam up in, and then he instantly TP, so he baits out ZDZ's initial CC. But there's just not enough damage coming out of AL this time around. Look at Yago. He just tanked an entire Lucianal, and it didn't go to half health. And I think this Ryze is just getting way too out of hand.
Yeah, Yagao finally showing why the power of this Ryze, and honestly, comboing it with something like the Wukong just feels so much better than having it with the Sejuani. Just knowing that you can get that instant engage, you have a setup for, you know, kind of kiting back should you go a little bit too far forward. And now BLG firmly in the driver's seat. They've nearly got 3 items onto the Zeri. They're kind of getting themselves into a much better position to just kind of carry these games. And the longer it goes, the harder and harder it becomes for AL to really try to make this one work. I will say, the last time we said this was in game number 2, and it did come back for the side of AL. They were able to bring themselves off the brink of a 5,000 or 6,000 gold deficit, but it's a lot harder now with the Gwen and the Wukong. I feel like those two champions are just so powerful at just making fights happen. Betty just has to try and keep himself alive, but it's such a hard task.
Betty's already no mana, no health, so he has to reset here with the Baron minions coming in very soon. Of course, the Dragon also at 50 seconds. The Dragon Soul Point is going to get threatened for the side of BLG, but I just don't think they have the damage to really challenge the side of BLG anymore. I mean, the execution you need on this Akali to really get your hands onto the AD carry of BLG, it just requires you to do so much. But of course, the peel and the amount of damage they have themselves from BLG is enough to handle. And I'm feeling a bit, I'm feeling like the solo lanes of AL have been a bit silent this game.
Yeah, a little bit on mute, much like when I need to sneeze, but here we go. They're going to look for a fight here. Shun using the decoy beautifully. Xiaohao tries to dive onto the backside, but you just can't right now. Here comes the Realm Warp. Not going to bring anybody there because they tried to just pepper down these damage. Betty almost dies, and Yagao is fearless right now, moving forward. They had him in the Aqua Prison, and it did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Xiaohao goes in with that ultimate, of course, gets onto the clone, and there's just no follow-up from the side of AL. Everyone's too scared to pull the trigger and just go forward, even though your composition is that aggressive team composition that needs to go forward, but everyone's too scared. You've given your lead over to the side of BLG, and now they're just scaling out of control, picking up the third dragon, threatening Soul Point.
And that's it. It just feels like BLG going from strength to strength. They've got a composition that works for themselves, and really, really well done. I will say Elk being 100% kill participation right now is thoroughly deserved. He is on the 3-item spike. Is going to be doing significant work in this frontline damage if he's able to get himself set up. And again, we're seeing it so many times. This Wukong has really been the linchpin to keep this composition going, despite, you know, ZDZ looking for engages, Xiaohao trying to see if he can get on top of someone. It's just not worked out because of the Wukong having that disengage with the decoy and of course the Cyclone. So there's just too much to burn through before you even get to what is the meat and the life of BLG and their damage composition.
Yeah, Shun playing the early game extremely well, and of course getting all these engages onto AL where they've just been feeling suffocating in these team fights, and him having 5 games now with this included, of course, on the Wukong. It just seems like a really nice comfort pick, and of course paired with the Yuumi, these team fights, once he does go in, he has a second lifeline, unlike the Vi where she ults in and she just dies instantly.
I mean, ZDZ's being kept away from this fight right now, but Bin is getting caught out and he has been taken out. So it's a 5v4 now coming into this one. Betty trying to use his ultimate to get some more damage down. They kill off everyone. Yeah, Yagao is just too big and he's just running forward. He is a raid boss right now. Shun looking to see if he can catch out Pinzi, but should be able to get himself over the wall and nothing else going to happen from that. But I feel that's all she wrote for this one, Kitty. I feel like this is going to be the curtains for AL as they should be falling 2-1 to BLG.
So close yet so far, Oshin. That first win for AL was just in their grasp, but unfortunately with the early game going for the side of BLG and they were able to really come back after Betty gave chances to the Zeri. It was just really sad to see, but of course with AL's composition being obviously more catered towards the early to mid game, we've hit the 28-minute mark where the Zeri and Ryze are just way too strong and you don't have the damage to really execute them. Pinzi has just been constantly CSing in the side wave, but you're not a Ryze. You don't want to be CSing. You're not going to scale as well.
No, and CDC, like, he can try his best. He won't do any damage, and he won't take any damage unless there's 5 members available to the side of BLG. So just going to try and be a nuisance to back himself away. But have a look at the replay here. Because, again, they're looking for something. They're trying to get something. And they do get bin, in fairness to them, but they're just so far behind.
They're so far pushed up as well. Look at Yago. He does just go in, execute Sorta because he was a lonely fish as the rest of the team finishes off Betty as well.
Jesus.
But playing at the dead tier 1 tower when you're playing for tier 2 was a bit risky. But obviously with the game state being like this, AL just has to look for something because you guys aren't going to get any stronger compared to Horizon Zeri.
Yeah, and then again, it's just more and more pressure being put onto AL, and looking likely they're going to be going to a 0-7 score line. Really, really hard to kind of be upbeat about this team right now, and even looking towards their next few games, it doesn't exactly get that much easier. They've got WE coming up next later on this week, then Ninjas in Pajamas, but after that it's Weibo, it's RNG.
But Xiaohao steal this.
I don't think he can, though, and that's, yeah, they're going to go for the fight instead. Betty trying to put down damage, and they got Pinsy on the backside. Bin's gone down once more, but look at Elk. He's free hitting. Elk is going for it. They are trading back, though, positively. ZDZ, it's a 2 for 2. He will have his zombie form right now, but look at Elk. He's doing so much. Yagao and Elk have got so much damage. Pinsy tried to make the miracle play happen. Just not going to be happening, even with the lifeline. It's a full house, double upon triple. And AL will fall to BLG. There's just too big of a wallet right now.
Oshina was looking so good for AL. They got bin once again, and the health bars were dropping, but I remembered that Yaga and Elk exist in these team fights, and their health bars weren't dropping. And of course, a 5-0 trade, and Nexus slowly falls down in the favor of BLG, and AL continues their loss streak.
They wanted to make sure the Elk was there for the end screen as they bring the minions away and finish off the Nexus. 3-3 now for the scoreline of BLG. It definitely was not clean, but they got the job done. And AL now 0-7. Yikes. It's a bit of a yikes.
It's okay. With no expectations, you can just play whatever you want because in the end, maybe the result will always be like that. But of course, congratulations to BLG. They've had a pretty rough schedule versing all the top teams, although winning up against Weibo Gaming, I think this one really boosts the morale for them at least. Not very well played. I would say it was a bit scruffy, especially in that game 2 where they did drop the win when they had the 5k gold lead.
Yep.
But Yago looked like he picked up his game in this third one, and he really just told them, this is why I play Rise the most.
Yeah, this is why Rise is a pickable or bannable champion against me. So it's a good win for BLG. Again, gets them back on top of in terms of winning ways. They were on a 2-game loss streak. Gets themselves re-established and reaffirmed in where they can be. And look, they've got like a couple of, sprinkled in there, but they've got a couple of fairly, winnable games coming up next. They've obviously won today. They play RA later this week. They can and should be winning that, in my opinion. Then they play LNG. That one, it can be a bit of a toss-up. Obviously we talked about how BLG beat Weibo, but then Weibo beat JDG. It's a whole rock, paper, scissors within the LPL, so we'll see how LNG and BLG fare up. But then, Ultra Prime, LGD, these are teams you can beat, and you can start to solidify yourself as we get towards the second half of the split.
Yeah, like I've been saying, I think BLG has the potential of becoming a top team. You have Bin, you have Yago, like they've been big names in the LPL scene. Yago being, of course, the JDG mid laner for 4 years, even making it to the semifinals in 2022 up against T1. So we know the potential is there, but I just think the synergy for some of these team fights specifically, we see a lot of hesitation, especially coming out of the jungler and just with the engages and how they play it. Definitely could be worked on, but I have high hopes for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, we gotta look at this team on paper and say that this team should, on paper, be very, very good. I think for BLG, they can move forward and kind of go for it. And of course, for AL, I don't know. I don't know what way to kind of put this right now, but it's rough. It is rough. And like you said, you can play without expectations, but you still want to win, Kitty. You still want to come out with a W at some point. And getting all these like single game wins, it feels like they're so close yet always so far away.
Yeah, I mean, they have managed to scramble 4 wins for AL, right? But I just feel like they weren't really playing towards their comfort. They didn't really have that aggression when you do lock in the Akali and the Vi. We rarely saw them synergizing in these team fights and really getting onto the carries of BLG for this Game 3. Betty once again doing the most damage, but I think he has been, although he does die in the early games. I think he's been the most consistent when it comes to this DPS role, and it's just really sad to see because I think the mistakes that they're making are very easy to fix. They just have to grow more confident in their play.
I think that's the best way to put it. Like you said, like the mistakes are rudimentary. It feels like these are things that you can work on, get better at, and move forward from there. But even like small little things like Betty just deciding he wasn't going to go anywhere, but sides, EDZ not flashing over the wall with the rest of his team to get out. It just feels like right there, that's what's causing them a lot of harm. It's causing them a lot of issues because they're making good plays. They're causing good, problems, I suppose, for the other team, and good for in the sense for AL. But it's just never sticking together. It just feels very disconnected.
Yeah, I mean, even though BLG came out on top with a 2-1 series, I think they can definitely reflect on that because the game 2 was definitely super scrappy. We saw a lot of indecisive plays from a scaling composition where I believe the game went to 40 minutes. So technically on paper, you should never be losing those games, but just I think there were micro mistakes when it came to mechanics, and maybe Yagal's build just wasn't correct where it wasn't really executing the enemy Scion, and this champion was just ruining everyone's day. Obviously in this game 3 it lost, but like I've been saying, this Scion has been such a prominent pick in the LPL where you got to start really getting into those counters or saving the counters for top lane for Bin.
Yeah, I think it does feel like you are going to have to start saving those for BLG. And of course, the Scion is just a big meat stick. He just kind of goes up top lane, builds a lot of HP, becomes a problem later, and has an engage as well. So interesting to see kind of where they're able to kind of go with that one there. And of course, for BLG, we're obviously being, quite, I am being quite harsh on them in terms of how they've been playing, but a win's a win. 3-3, moving up now in the standings. They'll bring themselves up alongside the likes of Team WE, Weibo. Those are the kind of people there. And the thing is like, especially even though we are only 6 series on average per team, it is important to make sure you keep instead with them, because if you start to fall behind too early, that becomes a pretty desperate attempt to try and get back into relevance later on. So a good win today for them.
Yeah, especially when you are in the middle pack of the standings right now and you need to become top 10 to really proceed into the playoffs. I think BLG, grabbing this win and stopping their loss streak is definitely going to be a huge boost of morale. But I think just the inconsistencies coming out of specifically Yaga and Shun when it came to game 2, I wanted to see a lot more synergy, but it's okay. We can work on those things.
Yeah, we can absolutely indeed. We're going to send it over to Sam for a winner's interview.
Hello guys, welcome to the interview, and now I'm standing with the mid laner Yagao from Bilibili Gaming. And first, congratulations on your win today, and how do you adjust yourself after the loss against EDG? 那首先恭喜你们今天能够拿到比赛的胜利。那么上一场比赛经历了和 EDG 之间的一个失利之后，你们是如何去调整自己的呢？
就努力呗。
We just try to adjust ourselves and do some hard works and try to win this matchup. And my second question is about game 1, because Shing on Maokai for the first time in this split. So how do you comment on this champion from him? 那么今天的第一局比赛，勋也是本赛季第一次拿到了非常强势的英雄大树。那你是怎么去评价他大树第一局当中的发挥的呢？
我觉得他大树熟练度很高吧。然后其实我们平时训练也用了很多，然后今天终于拿出来了。
I think he played Maokai so well, and we have a lot of times that he played on Maokai in the scrims, and he played well today. And his Maokai also plays a lot around your Jace, around mid lane, in the early game and the middle game. So why do you have so high mid jungle proximity? 那么今天其实第一局当中，他的大树也是一直在围绕着你的杰斯去展开游戏。那么为什么你们会保持如此高的一个中野清净率呢？不管说是在前期还是在中期。
主要也是因为对面中单没有闪嘛，然后我们很好配合抓他，然后而且我们如果2个人肥的话，在打支援团会很好打。
Actually, it's because their mid laner from AL lost his flash in the early game, so he makes a lot of ganks around him. And if we two got fat, then we can win the middle game team fights easily. And for game 2, you two teams change your composition almost. So how to comment on the Jace versus Ryze in the mid lane? 那么第二局其实你们两支队伍互相之间也是基本上是互换了 BP。那 你是怎么去评价中路杰斯和瑞兹之间的一个对线的？
感觉这两个瑞兹就是推线，然后对线可能比杰斯更强一点嘛。然后杰斯打团的话，消耗能力比较强。
I think Rice always can push the lane and win the lane, but Jace is more stronger in the team fights. After your Game 2 loss from so many team fights in the late game, how do you adjust yourself in Game 3? 那么第2局其实，在中后期你们打了非常多的乱战，最终是输掉比赛。那第3局你们是如何在这一点上去做调整的呢？
第2把感觉就是打得有点上头了，就一直在乱打，然后就输了嘛。第3把我们就是好好就是不打那种乱打的团战就好了。
Actually, we lost the Game 2 because we play over aggressively in the late game. So we just try to keep calm and prepare well for the team fights in Game 3. So let's talk about the team fights in Game 3. The Infernal Drake team fight is so clutch in the game, and how do you get prepared for the team fights? 那第3局当中，你也说到你们说准备好了去打很多打有准备的团嘛？那第3局当中最关键的那一波火龙团，当时队内是怎么去沟通的呢？
当时就是我们拉扯一下，然后等我们猴子大招嘛，然后我就盯着对面阿卡丽的话，就应该是好打的。然后主要也是因为我们 AD 操作到了。
I think at that time we just try to wait for the Cyclone from Wukong, and I just keep focus on Akali from the opponents. And our AD carry performed well in the team fights, so we win that team fight and finally win the game. And thank you for the interview, and hope you can get more wins in next games. 那么再一次感谢牙膏来接受我们的采访，也希望你们在之后能够收获更多的胜利。That's all for the interview today, and back to you guys. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Sam.